Council agenda, Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, regular Township Council meeting of November 20th, 2018.
Posting of notice and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building and on the municipal website on December 20th, 2017, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December 27th, 2017, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers on December 20th, 2017. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Public Access Channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Please rise for flag salute. Peterson, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Here.
Ms. Grignani,
Present.
Ms. McCarthy,
Here.
Ms. Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Carriffy.
Here.
Also in attendance are Township Attorney Jim Lott, Business Administrator Keith Kasmark, Mayor Michael Soriano, Business Administrator Ellen Sandman, Township Clerk Colette Madden, Council President. We have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, December 4th, 2018, 7:30 p.m. agenda meeting. December 28th, 2018, 7:30 p.m. regular meeting. Approval.
I'm sorry, I think that's a typo. December 28th is a Friday. December 18th, however, is a Tuesday.
That is correct,
correct.
and it is a typo. Sorry about that.
Okay, approval of minutes, agenda meeting September 11th, 2018, regular meeting September 25th, 2018, agenda meeting October 16th, 2018, regular meeting October 30th, 2018, and the agenda meeting November 8th, 2018. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Second, sorry.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, presentations, reports. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'd like to start off with just a couple of dates for public information. On December 1st at 5 p.m. here at Town Hall, we're going to have a Santa visit and a Christmas tree lighting. On that Sunday, December 2nd at 7 p.m., we're going to have a menorah lighting that will include these four temples: Adath Shalom, Beth Am, Shai Avat, and the Shabbat Center of Northwest New Jersey.
What time?
7 p.m.
For both?
No.
7 p.m. both?
Yes. Okay, 5 p.m. for the Santa visit, which is December 1st.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't need to explain to this body what's been going on lately in the news. I would like as many people there as possible for both events, but I would like people that may not necessarily be of the Jewish faith to come to the December 2nd event, because I think we need to show people that Parsippany is a very giving and loving town, and that as a township, we are united and support and love the Jewish community here in Parsippany. And that's something a message that I want to send out there. And let's just say there's apprehension and a little bit of fear going on in that community. And I think knowing that they're supported and loved will help them enjoy the holidays a bit more. So please join me for that. I have two proclamations and then one more announcement. I'd like to read this first proclamation into the record. Whereas the government of Parsippany Troy Hills, New Jersey celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 30 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States and are responsible for 65.9% of the net new jobs created from 2000 to 2017. And whereas small businesses employ 47.5% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, And whereas 90% of consumers in the United States say Small Business Saturday has had a positive impact on their community. And whereas 89% of consumers who are aware of Small Business Saturday said the day encourages them to shop small all year long. And whereas 73% of consumers who reportedly shop small at independently owned retailers and restaurants on Small Business Saturday did so with friends or family. And whereas the most reported reason for consumers aware of the day to shop and dine at small, independently owned businesses was to support their community, 64% by the way. And whereas Parsippany Troy Hills, New Jersey supports our local business that creates jobs, boosts our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Michael Soriano, the mayor of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, do hereby proclaim November 24th, 2018 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year, dated this 20th of November, 2018.
Thank you.
Thank you. For this second reading, I would like to call up Joan Garbino and members of the Women's Club of Parsippany.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Okay.
Thank you.
A proclamation. Whereas we have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of Parsippany Troy Hills to recognize that all children need love, support, security, and a place to call home. And whereas for children who are born into families unable to meet their ongoing needs, adoption offers healthy and safe family environments which help produce confident and successful adults. And whereas families who choose the life-changing path of adoption make a meaningful and lasting difference in the lives of some of the most vulnerable young people in our society. And whereas adoptive parents and families require and deserve community and public agency respect and support. And whereas during National Adoption Month, we celebrate all those who have invited a child in need into their hearts and into their homes and express our profound appreciation for all who help make adoptions possible. And whereas court-appointed special advocates, programs, and volunteers in Parsippany Troy Hills help to ensure that children in foster care or other out-of-home placements are adopted into safe, loving homes within their own families, cannot meet their needs. And now, therefore, I, Michael Soriano, Mayor of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, do hereby proclaim November 2018 as National Adoption Month, and I urge all citizens to support organizations such as the court-appointed special advocates and engage in activities that strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for children to learn, grow, and thrive, so that all children have the benefit of happy, healthy, and safe homes, dated this 20th day of November, 2018. There's one thing I like to do is to steal your thunder. And before I end my report, on December 1st, the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills is going to be without Ellen Sandman. And her last day is the end of this month, to which we're going to have quite a party now, aren't we, Ellen?
We are.
And we will be reading I will be reading a proclamation there. I didn't want to read it here at the council meeting. The council has their own, but I at least wanted an opportunity to say, Ellen, thank you so much for everything you've done for me personally, to make me feel welcomed here, and to help me with the transition. What you've done to work with me and the staff I respect and love how much you love your job and your profession and how seriously you take it and the passion that you tackle your job every day. And 44 and a half years. I thought it was 44. She added the half. She sounded like my daughter when she was 7 years old. She said, I'm 7.5. Ellen, God bless you. Thank you so much that you've done here for this township. And Denville's not too far away, right?
No.
You'll come by for lunch once in a while.
Absolutely.
I can go to Denville. You have a place or two
We
to
have a
eat there.
place or two.
Good, just one or two. All right. But Ellen, thank you very much, and God bless you. And let's get a round of applause from everyone here.
Oh, he was gonna just drop the mic.
Mike. Coming up.
Thank you. Okay. Yep.
You know, the mayor said 44 and a half years. You know, when people find out that I've been teaching at the academy for 30 years, I tell them back then you could get on the job at 10. So, you know, you got on the job at 10. All right. So, you know, I've had the privilege of working with you for 4.5 years, and you know, I always bust your chops. I always say you, instead of working 60, 70 hours a week, you should have worked 75, 80. But, you know, it is true. There's times where you could drive by here on a weekend and, you know, there's Ellen's car out here. So it really, it really has been a privilege to work with you. You know, you've always been there. You've offered advice on a lot of things. You're very knowledgeable. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. You know, 44 and a half, you know, you got on the job when you were 10. We both did. But I'm going to read this for you, and, you know, we're going to miss you. We really are. Township of Parsippany Troy Hills Certificate of Recognition presented to Ellen Sandman in gratitude of your unwavering standard of excellence as business administrator and in appreciation of the countless hours, definitely countless hours, of dedicated service to the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills and its residents. We wish you best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement, dated this 20th day of November 2018.
Just a couple of words. I go back with Ellen when I was president of the Morris County League of Municipalities some 25, 26 years ago. Ellen was my first vice president, and Sally Anacone was my second vice president. We had a really dynamic group, and we got a lot of things accomplished during those years. And we've been very, very good friends ever since. Ellen, I love you.
Thank you. I'm gonna have you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna say.
Yeah, because I don't
Yeah.
want to. I have
Because
to.
Ellen tends to go over the
Go
5
on.
minutes.
So, the Board of Education.
No
I'll-
exceptions.
I'll wait till you're.
I'll make sure I give you your 1 minute.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
They may- Yeah. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, at this time, we have on the schedule here a presentation by RD Realty, and just wanted to say a couple things. At our last meeting, there had been a discussion that had come up in reference to the Waterview development over there and with RD Realty looking to make a change to the agreement in one of the stores, the amount of space there, and we had made a proposal in reference to that and the Shake Shack, which was an issue as far as on that property. Since that meeting, I have met with Mr. Dave Kaplan, who is the representative for that neighborhood and that area over there, as well as the developer. And Mr. Kaplan had met with the developer prior to me attending a meeting, and had addressed a number of concerns with the developer in reference to what is going on over there, and with the Shake Shack and potential odors that could be coming out of that, as well as a number of other issues with the development and the property. When I got to that meeting, I was informed by Mr. Kaplan that the developer was in agreement to fix, make changes to, and take care of all issues and concerns of the residents of that area. I double-checked that with Mr. Kaplan. He is here tonight, so I'm going to ask him to come up when I'm done, just to address that. And I know there's a representative here from RD as well. I stated to them that I would like all of these things. Obviously, they're going to have to get together with Mr. Lott, and this is going to have to be done, with
That actually goes to Mr.
or
Opal.
Mr. Yes,
Yep, Opal's
okay,
here.
over there, yes. And have that in writing. But again, the neighborhood over there, all of the people, it's been addressed. Mr. Kaplan has taken care of that, and that RD Realty is willing to take care of all issues and concerns of the residents in that area. So I just wanted the rest of the council members to know that. Mr. Kaplan's here. I'm going to ask him just to come up and speak for a minute or two, just to advise the rest of the council of that. And then if any council members have any questions of Mr. Kaplan or the representative, they can ask that at this time.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Good evening, Council. As Council President Griffey stated, I did have several very productive conversations with Rick Burdoff, who is the principal owner of RD Realty. He called after that last council meeting at which I spoke. He called me the next day, said he wanted to get together and talk. We had multiple email exchanges, multiple phone conversations. Rick and Joe Forgione came out to my property. Looked at some of the concerns that I had in terms of the lines of sight. The development is not as hidden as we were initially led to believe, and they agreed to plant a row of evergreens at the top of, so my backyard goes up the hill, then Waterview's kind of set down at the top of that hill along Forest. That's something that's got to be worked out with the council, because that is now technically township land. So you guys are going to have to work on that. But that there's no objection from the neighborhood. It's actually something we would like. The primary concern there would be the lights, because right now it's really a clear shot to the sky over Route 46. The lights are not installed in the development yet, and once those get put in and are operational, they're going to have a negative impact on the houses along Intervale and Forest. So that's going to be taken care of. We talked about the fence. We looked at various places where that fence should go. We want to get it away from our properties as much as possible. So that's going to go in between RD's property and the township property. The purpose of that fence and why it's so important to us is we don't want people leaving Shake Shack and hanging out in the woods and cutting through our properties, because that is now it's going to be a very heavily trafficked area. They need to stay out of the woods there. And then probably the most concerning piece to us were the odors off of the Shake Shack. RD has agreed to purchase what's called a scrubber that will be placed on the roof of Shake Shack. Rick had conversations with Shake Shack representatives, and they pitched him this unit, and they said this is what they use when they build close to residential neighborhoods, and they've had no complaints from the residents and other Shake Shacks that are close to houses. So that is going to be installed on the roof. I spoke to multiple, I didn't keep track, I want to say roughly 15 residents in the Intervale area who are close to the Waterview property. Nobody had any additional concerns. Everyone was satisfied with that. Again, Council President Carriffy came out. We confirmed everything. At that point, it was left at a handshake. So again, we've got to get that finalized. But I will say, RD was very responsive, and he said if even along the way, before things are finished, there are other concerns that come up that we haven't predicted, that just come as a course of the finalization of the project, to reach out to him, and he will work with the residents. He said he considered himself a neighbor and a taxpayer in town, and he wants to fit in with the neighborhood. So I was very optimistic with his approach. I was appreciative of his approach, and I have not heard any concerns from anyone in Intervale. So
Thank you.
thank you. I really appreciate the council's support.
Thank you. Okay, Township Attorney?
Council President, I'm sorry, there's nothing else related to RD Realty, or will there anything that will come up with regards to RT Realty? Only reason because we have the attorneys here, and I'd rather not keep them the entire meeting if that's going to be the case.
So we'll open up if anybody had any questions. for that.
If we could now
Okay,
at this point,
yeah.
since we're already talking about
Is it-
RD.
Are there any members of the public that has any questions?
We'll
or-
see if the attorneys want to
Okay,
talk.
go ahead.
Council President, members of the council, my name is Peter Flannery. I'm an attorney for RD Realty LLC. I can represent that Mr. Kaplan accurately described the measures that RD Realty will take, and we can distill those in writing. The other issue that we'd like the council's attention on tonight is there is a proposed amendment to the 2015 settlement agreement. It's a rather simple amendment which changes some of the maximum square footage amounts for individual tenant spaces and buildings within the shopping center. This is primarily to accommodate HomeSense, which is a high-end niche retailer coming in. They require a larger tenant space than is currently permitted under the settlement agreement. And as a result of that tenant, there's also a shifting of some of the maximum sizes of other tenant spaces and buildings within the shopping center. Overall, though, the square footage will not increase. In fact, it will decrease over what's approved per the current settlement agreement. And I have Mr. Shirag Thakkar, our consultant engineer here, who can describe the numbers and the shopping center configuration in a little more detail if the council so wishes.
I don't think it's necessary. As long as the square footage is not increased, you're moving a wall. And our concern was the Shake Shack, and that's been addressed, so I don't really have any other concerns.
Right.
The one issue, though, unfortunately, the 2015
Speak into the
settlement
mic.
agreement has a specific provision in it which requires that if we're going to change the square footage amounts, we need a resolution from the council
Right.
approving this amendment.
Right,
Right.
So
okay.
that's
So
Which-
you need a resolution from us.
Right.
correct.
Which we'll
What we'll do is, given that everything has been handled and all the issues are now squared away, we will place a resolution at the second meeting in December for action by the council, and that will be, I believe, December 18th.
Thank you.
we're just going to need to get all of that.
Well, we're going to have
All that
Mr.
stuff,
Opal, if you
writing,
can just
all
coordinate
legal
with
things
our
taken
attorney
care
here,
of.
Mr. Opal, and you guys can coordinate, and then we could take it from there.
Right. I think the form of agreement has been presented, but there are other details that need to be worked out, I believe. So
I have a question.
Good.
Does this have to go before the planning board?
it may eventually. This
Well,
is
because we had that last night, it came up, and
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, do you need the planning board would have to review any of the changes, wouldn't they?
possibly, certainly, but the first step would be amending the agreement. That's
If the
first
total,
step in the
if the
process.
footprint hasn't changed,
Well, they're putting in trees, they're putting in a fence. It's a restaurant now. Before it was a retail store. I think there
No,
may.
it was either a bank or
A bank.
Well, a bank,
or-
but now
or-
it's a
no
now
bank
it's a,
or a restaurant. It was either bank or Fed.
But wasn't it conditional on parking spaces?
there was something in parking there, but it was
Right.
optional for either.
Well, I think that's a question that we need to determine.
Correct. There will be a
There has
process
to be,
and
you
we'll
know, whether
follow
the
the-
lighting, signage, whatever is gonna be
Certainly.
different.
You need
We'll
to.
certainly
in the
follow
agreement.
all
We would need to.
proper processes, but I think the first step is just getting the agreement amended. That really starts the entire process here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions, concerns, or issues? Because the attorneys will be leaving, and that will be your chance out the door. So if there are any questions, please just bring them now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, our only concern, the reason we put that in there about moving the walls for RD Realty was we did not want a box store to go there, so we didn't want all of the walls to disappear and have one big store. That's what we were trying to avoid. So we said anytime you move a wall, you have to come back to the township for approval. You're not building a box store, you're moving a wall for one particular customer. Footprint doesn't change. I don't have any problem with it.
So we'll get that on for the second meeting.
Thank you, Council President. We're all set. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. All right, at this time, we're going to have a presentation on the annual budget.
So we need the
Board of Ed?
Township Attorney report first.
Right. Oh, did you?
I don't think he reported. I kind of.
I have no report. Happy Thanksgiving.
That's what he said.
Sorry. Didn't get that for the record. Okay.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have a presentation, the annual budget of the Board of Education. Superintendent Barbara Sargent.
Take them all. You-
Good evening, council members, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. Good evening to our residents and to our school board members. And if I may offer a correction, what I'm presenting this evening is our district goals for the 2018-19 school year. As a school district, we don't begin to prepare our budget for the 2019-20 school year until December, and then there will be formal presentations at our public board meetings as we get closer to March and April. It's been my practice in other school communities where I've worked to always ask permission to present district goals at the town council meetings. I just think it's good practice for the town council and for the community to be aware of the very fine things that are happening in the schools and the goals that we've set for ourselves. The town council members have paper copies of the presentation for anyone in the audience who is interested. These goals were presented to our board in October, and they are posted on our school district website, and you're welcome to visit there and to certainly reach out to me with any questions you may have. Want to preface our district goals by just explaining that just a little over 2 years ago, the Parsippany Troy Hills School District engaged in a strategic planning endeavor, and that was prior to my coming on board. With the assistance of a consultant, the township, the school district worked with community members, school district members, students and staff and parents to engage in decision-making and brainstorming about areas in which they wanted to enrich and improve the lives of the students and the faculty. And as a result of that very rich work, established 3 strategic planning goals that will really guide our work over the next several years. And if I may read those out loud, strategic goal number 1 is that our district will create an innovative and rigorous educational experience in a borderless learning community that produces creative students who are problem solvers and self-directed individuals. So when we refer to strategic planning goal number 1, we generally refer to this as our student-aimed goal or our student academic-aimed goal. Goal number 2 speaks to a student's social and emotional experiences. All students will receive social and emotional support to become adaptable, confident citizens who embody self-awareness and strong interpersonal skills capable of responsible decision-making and managing their emotions and behaviors. That's a lot. And goal number 3 essentially speaks to our adult learner population, our teaching staff, our paraprofessionals, our support staff. Our community of adult learners will be fully engaged in professional growth experiences, which enable them to continuously hone their craft and maximize student achievement. So these three huge umbrella goals will really guide our district's work over the next several years. What we do next is then we take those very large strategic planning goals and we determine very specific annual district goals, and that's what I'm presenting this evening. So if we come back to goal number 1, which was essentially our student academic goal, what we've done is we've established on the left-hand column very specific strategies related back to that. And our aim is to complete these by the end of this school year in June. So you'll see such strategies as we have a number of different curriculum renewal plans in place related to updating math curriculum, updating social studies curriculum, updating literacy curriculum, and each of those are posted here just because they have direct importance in what our students are learning about and the instructional strategies we're using in the classroom. We are looking to, on number 3, explore borderless learning opportunities for our high school students. This would include specifically some online learning opportunities. We know that as our students now go into community college, 2-year and 4-year colleges, many of those college courses that they'll be engaged in may be online learning opportunities. And I feel strongly that it's smart for us to help our students learn to navigate an online learning forum while they're in our high schools and our middle schools, while they have parents who love and care for them surrounding them before they get out into college and those support systems aren't necessarily in place. So we're exploring some online learning opportunities for our students as well. Also under strategic planning goal number 1, we are looking to implement something called a Genius Hour in our high school classes. This is where high school students are really able to determine a project that is of particular passion to them that may not be directed within that particular subject area. Most specifically, let me explain that for students who take advanced placement classes, AP classes, as some of us may know, have their exam in May. That's established by the College Board, so that's already predetermined. And once that exam is done, the curriculum has essentially been taught, and that leaves the rest of May and much of June for the teacher to add additional enrichment learning opportunities for the students. A Genius Hour put in place of that really allows students the last 6 weeks almost of school to be pursuing areas of interest, to be conducting their own research, to be trying out new programs. And we had a few teachers try that out this past year. Some students taught themselves to make movies, and then they presented their movies to their classmates. We had other students who went out and conducted interviews with senior citizens in the community and then reported back to their classmates. So it's an opportunity for students to really begin to establish a personal goal for themselves, set out how they're going to accomplish it, and then come back with a final product for their teacher. We're looking to expand that further this year. We're looking to expand our one-to-one initiative. Currently in grades 9 through 12, all of our students have 24-hour access to a Chromebook laptop device. They're able to bring it home. They're able to do all of their schoolwork on it. Many of their textbooks are accessible online, and so it really creates more of that borderless learning opportunity. We want to be able to understand both the learning implications and the financial implications of then bringing that into our middle school, and whether that would be grades 6, 7, and 8, or just grade 8, or just grade 6. That's part of what we'll be exploring this year, both through our budget process and through our district goal work. We're looking to increase STEM opportunities at all grade levels. STEM would be science, technology, engineering, and math opportunities. It's been so exciting to watch a new robotics class in place at our middle and our high school. We have robotics teams at both high schools that compete across New Jersey, and honestly, the kids are just so passionate and excited about the work that they do. They craft the machine has to take on certain tasks, and then they're competing against other high school teams, and then you rank up, and then you get to compete regionally and nationally, and those clubs are supervised by our own teaching staff. So it's really neat to see how much above and beyond our teachers go for our students each and every day. We are looking to expand elective offerings at our middle school. This is being handled 2 ways. One, our teachers have been proposing different classes that they think students would be interested in, but additionally, Mr. Gray, who is our Central Middle School principal, and Dr. Betts, our Brooklawn Middle School principal, surveyed their 6th and 7th grade students, because those are the students who will be still in middle school next year, about what sorts of elective classes they would like to see offered. And so we've had such things as sports and literature, coding at an advanced level, which has been really neat. I feel very strongly about listening to student voice and giving students leadership opportunities within their school lives. That's, you know, where they spend a good deal of their time. And so we'll be looking at our ability to staff those classes and to run them as electives for next year at our middle school. Still within strategic planning area number 1, we're looking to expand our world language experiences for our students. Right now at the middle school especially, when children leave our elementary school, grade 6 is really their first year of daily world language instruction, and 6th grade is really just a half of a year. So children will choose either Spanish or French or Italian. They'll do a semester of that language, and then they'll go into an elective study. And then they'll do a full year in 7th grade and a full year in 8th grade. We'd like to move students to a full year of language study beginning in 6th grade. I think it's a missed opportunity that they only do a half of a year and then go into an elective before doing a full year in 7th grade. We think that that will not only bring us students that come with a stronger language experience as they move through high school. We've seen in other school districts where they've implemented very similar changes that students then tend to take more than 2 years of a world language. And we know, for those of us who studied language in high school, you generally don't get really proficient and fluent at it until level 3 or level 4. And so this is an opportunity to really strengthen our students' experience and exposure to world languages, and I think provide them with a stronger college-going experience as well. We have additional curriculum work happening, as I indicated, in mathematics and literacy. We're looking to further explore our partnership with the County College of Morris. I've been in many conversations with their academic dean about offering a dual enrollment experience for our Parsippany students. Essentially what that would mean is within very select courses, if students are enrolled in a class at Parsippany High School or Parsippany Hills High School, and the county college has reviewed our syllabus, reviewed our curriculum, vetted the teacher with regard to that teacher's credentials at a nominal amount, not nearly what a parent would pay for a county college level course, that student could also be gaining college credit at the same time they're sitting in the high school class. The student would never need to leave our campus, and yet at the end of the school year, they would not only get transcript credit on Parsippany for that class, but they would have college credit through CCM for that class. Raritan Valley does something very similar with all of the Somerset County schools, and I've been really excited by the really nice opportunity that CCM has been offering us in thinking through this. We're aiming for that to be in place for September, at least on a very small level. With goal number 2, which is our student social and emotional learning experiences, we're starting really at the elementary level here and then growing our way up. We had a really dynamic committee of parents, board members, teachers, and guidance counselors explore a number of different character education and social and emotional learning programs. And we've identified one called Sanford, coming out of Stanford University in California, that is available, and we'll be training our counselors and our teachers on how to implement those lessons and those learning opportunities with our students starting in grades K through 5. And then we would look the following year to grow that up into middle and high school. Essentially, the lessons would look like things like helping students as they enter to be greeting one another, to be recognizing when you're having issues, how to ask for help in a way that's respectful, and really having kids advocate for themselves, because I think those are skills that carry throughout life. Additionally, within this area, we're looking to establish a mindfulness program throughout the district. We've done a lot of this already with our teaching staff so that when we have district in-service opportunities, we're providing techniques that teachers can use with their students on helping students to live more stress-free lives, to study for tests in a way that really stretches out the work so we're not cramming and making ourselves anxious in a small amount of time. We're looking to make some schedule changes, both at our elementary level and at our high school level. At the elementary level, that work is already in place this year. In grade 5, which is the last year of our elementary schools, in grade 5, rather than having one 5th grade teacher for all of your subject areas, this year we've divided out our content. So for example, at Intervale School, there are 2 sections of 5th grade. One of those teachers this year is teaching math and science. One of those teachers is teaching language arts and social studies, and then they switch their groups. Not only is that smart practice for our teachers, so they're not preparing for 4 content areas. The content, by the time we get to 5th grade, is very rigorous, but it's also great for our students because they're getting practice changing classes, moving through the halls, getting used to different teachers, philosophies, and practices, in a very controlled way, in a very welcoming elementary school before they move into a much larger middle school setting. So that's already in place this year and going extremely well. Our high school has been working for more than a year on implementing a modified block schedule program, which would allow for students to spend a longer period of time in classes and to model more of what happens in a college setting, where in a college setting you're not meeting with that class and that teacher every single day. We've seen a number of area districts, Cranford, Mount Olive, Madison, already have such a schedule in place for several years, and we've made visits there. Our aim would be to implement that at both of our high schools in September next year. Still within the category of social and emotional learning, looking to really strengthen the way we transition students as they move from pre-kindergarten, if they're with us for that, into kindergarten, then from our 5th grade into our middle school, from our 8th grade into our high school, and then from 12th grade into college, career, armed forces, military, whatever that may be. We want to make sure that as we're leaving, as our students are leaving us, it's not a permanent goodbye, that we've really transitioned them so that they feel they still have resources here that they can come back to, but we're also supplying with them the skills that they need to really be able to take off and fly on their own. We're exploring a one book, one school initiative, which would be an entire school, Brooklawn Middle School, for example, where all the students are reading one book, all of the staff are reading one book, and then engaging in discussions and study sessions surrounding that. And then also looking to consider how we assess our district's achievement in areas of social and emotional growth. It's much easier for a school district, I think, to assess how our students are doing academically. We have a number of different assessments that help us with that. But how do you assess mindfulness in students? How do you assess students who are better advocates or demonstrating strong leadership skills? And I feel strongly about pursuing assessment in those areas as well so that we know how we're doing and can report back out on that. And then finally, within our 3rd goal, which speaks to our adult learners and how we support our teachers and our community of faculty members, we are looking to develop a professional learning framework which really differentiates what training looks like in our district. I think many of us have worked in organizations or been in schools where it was a one-size-fits-all, where everybody goes into an auditorium and they get that speaker and that's your training for that day. I don't think that's good use of our time. I don't think it's a good use of our funding. And everybody has different needs. Our brand new teachers have a particular set of needs. Our teachers who are 10 and 12 and 15 years in the position have a very different set of needs. And I feel strongly, just as we should be differentiating instruction for our students, that we should be doing that for our faculty members as well. Our board members will know if you were in our district on election day when our students were home, but our staff members were here for professional learning opportunities. We had a menu of options, and we ran 2 different 90-minute sessions in the morning, 2 different 90-minute sessions in the afternoon, and each teacher had more than 30 or 40 different options to choose from each of those sessions. Those options ranged from some things that might have been mandatory, for 90 minutes, such as we have some new science work we're doing, which is required by the Department of Education because there are new inquiry-based science standards being rolled out into the schools. So we captured teachers for that amount of time and really talked them through that work. But that was only 190-minute out of the other opportunities that they had. There were opportunities for our teachers to hear from one of the prosecutors from the Morris County Prosecutor's Office on opioid abuse and supporting students and adults. We had a number of different fitness and mindfulness related opportunities for our teachers to explore. We offered different sessions on how to teach writing workshop better, how to be a stronger reading teacher, different resources within the libraries that teachers can use. So there were really an abundance of opportunities for our teachers to have a lot of choice about how they wanted to be spending their time on that day. And I really feel strongly that just treats people professionally, and if you have a day of in-service, you want that learning to matter and be relevant to you, and so that's what our work is beginning to look like in Parsippany as we encounter each of those really critical in-service learning opportunities. Finally, within goal number 3, I'm also really looking to make sure that for teachers who are exploring leadership opportunities, and for some of that are teachers, those leadership opportunities will still keep them in our classrooms. We need master teachers who are 20 and 25 and 30 years in that building or in that district. They come with a lot of great history of what's been happening and what's worked and hasn't worked. But then we also have some teachers who will leave us to pursue supervisory work or administrative work. And so whether their leadership remains in the classroom or whether their leadership takes them to other opportunities, we want to really support that. Ambition is not a bad thing in Parsippany Troy Hills, not with our students and not with our staff. And so we feel strongly about really grooming and supporting teachers, whether it's helping them to be writing journal articles for professional journals, whether it's presenting at state and national level conferences, as we've begun to have some of our supervisors and principals do already. Not only is that good for their own resume building, it's great for Parsippany. It gives a really great name to the kind of people who work with us and the kind of learning that happens in our school district. And so, council members, though that is the work that we are engaged in for this particular school year, what I've explained to our board members, and I'll reiterate for the purpose of the council, the strategic planning goals will not change. We will be working on that over the next 4 and 5 years. But every year, the district goals will go deeper and be richer as we accomplish some things and then begin to tackle new ones. But everything will be nuanced back under the strategic planning initiatives. So I find that's really exciting. By regularly talking about it, by regularly giving our board members progress checks, it keeps the work active, it keeps the work dynamic, and it's never the sort of plan that sits on a shelf and goes nowhere. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you this evening, and really thank you for the opportunity to work in this community, because it's just such a rich and rewarding place, and I'm very lucky to be here.
Thank you.
I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
My son is in kindergarten, so I'm excited to watch this through his eyes as well.
Thank you, Dr. Sargent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Business Administrator, Ellen?
As you heard, 44 and a half years, so it's been quite a roller coaster ride of a great journey, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to spend the last 4.5 years as the business administrator here in Parsippany.
30 seconds.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
12 years. I'll have to talk Hudson County speak, and that's rather quickly. 12 years in Jersey City, and I had the opportunity to work my way up to the assistant BA, and then for 9 days I was the acting BA in the second largest city, so it did hone my skills there. 21 years in Denville, had the opportunity to work with not only the utilities, but with I wore the hat also of the public safety director. 7 years in Mendham, and then thought I was going to retire, and somebody called me from Parsippany and said, no, we think you're just done in Mendham, but you should come to Parsippany, and I did. So anyway, what I'd like to just talk about, it's a remarkable amount of things that got accomplished, and the reason is because Parsippany, as well as you have just stated through just on the Board of Education, the community of Parsippany is so vast and so rich that there were so many things to get done, and I've left you a few things, Keith. A good few things. We weren't able to get them all done, but I'm only in Denville, so I'd be happy to be a phone call away to just even if I just become some of your support. Go. So one of the things that was done, it only took 27 years, but was Forge Pond, and I see Lou is here, and originally they were going to give us $400,000, but I think through Lou's effort, we actually received $600,000 to do a remarkable project, and also at that time 128 acres were given as open space. But as you look at the symbol up here, actually the Forge Pond is somewhere where actually George Washington received his armaments, and it was one-stop shopping, and he got the cannonballs, and it's reflected up there. Another thing that was 5 years in the making is after the storms, there was an opportunity to receive back into the community after much work through lots of departments and lots of people. Over $5 million came back to Parsippany for those storms. Manor Lake Dam, another thing that was 20 years in the making, and I would like to report that it actually looks very nice now, and it was done in this last 4 years. The Smith Baldwin House, grants received through the county, upwards of $700,000. Very proud of that. While you are here, one of the things that was the first thing as a shared service, a true shared service, was the SRO program. I mean, the SRO program, and that was established where there was some funding provided by the Board of Education, and that again has blossomed into the Class 3s and the shared service and the shared energies of entities that blend very well together for the purpose of safety, and again in this day and age. So that has been a tremendous program that continues to just improve. The other thing with regard to the police department is, while I'm on shared services, is the radio system. That will provide for our first responders a tremendous amount of better communication, but it will also add to the community, and we will be able to have a big shared service. So that'll be something on your watch, where communities in the area who have not gone to the county can certainly come to Parsippany, who will do it better and for less. So anyway, one of the other things we've done as far as shared services is the court system. Boonton and Rockaway Borough now share with us the court system, and again, it's been a very successful program. Minor things that are not so minor because it was about safety is we've throughout the entire community have improved our fuel system and the delivery of that, and making it safe, and also provided it for the volunteer service to receive their fuel through the town. One of the big things with regard to the sewer was the Skyview pump station. We had an emergency back about 5 years ago where there was a bad break, and we had to go through Morris Township and also through Morris Plains. That now has been established that we have our own pump station. It's been built out, and the savings on that are approximately $200,000 plus that we do not have to pay out of the sewer utility. The other thing that we did was, in working with the department, the sewer department and the sewer utility was, we found that there were customers that were from Denville, I had nothing to do with it, that were getting the gallonage, and we were providing a service for them, and that has all been worked out to the tune of an additional $136,000. So, in working with the water department, we've worked on improving the water towers and coming back with very good bids on that, as well as working in the last 4 years, working out a new agreement with the provision of additional water. That being said, there's things like working with COA and the Special Needs Project. We've done quite a number of those over the last couple of years. LOSAP, which is a program that provides for our volunteers a benefit for them and their services, and we've went to a firm, Lincoln, that will provide much better financial support to them for doing that volunteer service that they do. A thing called GovDeals has become another asset where we sell to people can bid on things that are no longer required by the community, and that's brought in over $200,000 plus the fact that it's cleaned up areas. I played a little part in, others more. Happy to be part of the Knoll with the driving range and all the other things. UPS, 1,000 jobs, and whatever one may think of pilots. In this case, the pilot was a big success because it's the best pilot in the state of New Jersey ever, because all the money comes up front, and that's the first 10 years, pretty much what you would get in 30 years, we're getting in the first 10 years, so that will really help. Craftsman Farms, what can I say? It's a national and an international location, and I was happy to work with those folks. There's more that we could say, but in the interest of time, I would just like to leave you with 5 of the things that I've tried to live my life. It's called the Paradoxical Commandments. You may have heard of the 10 that were posted in Calcutta. Mother Teresa would have these 10 tenets that she followed through her life. I will talk of 5 of them, paraphrasing some of them. And here they go. Honesty and frankness makes you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds. Think big anyway. People favor underdogs, but follow only the top dogs. Fight for a few underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, and when you try to help them, sometimes they wind up attacking you. Help them anyway. And the last one is, give the world the best you have, and you may get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway. So I've tried to give the best to Parsippany. So, and again, you're not. Thank you. Thank you. And then so I'm doing pretty good with the cutting the time and not the tears. But I just want to say I only wish so much good, because this community has it all, warts and all, as we say. But you there's good neighbor. There's good camaraderie, and we can only improve upon it. As the mayor is talking about with regard to what's happening in the world, come celebrate the lights of Christmas. Come celebrate the lights of the menorah, because as you know, in the darkness, when that one little light goes. So let's all be the lights that we can be. Thank you. And we don't have a microphone, and I don't want to break anything.
No, you got it. You're good.
Okay. No, you wanted to.
Oh, you want to drop the mic?
Yeah, he's telling me, and when you finish, you just drop the mic. So, in deference to Colette getting a little upset. So, anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kazmark, anything?
Through you, Council President, I just want to thank Ellen from the bottom of my heart for this transition period that I've had the opportunity to experience over the last 7 weeks. When you come into a new position like this and you're going to have the opportunity to mirror someone for a period of time, you don't quite know what to expect. I don't know that this experience could have been better for either one of us. I hope that I have shown her the due respect in her outgoing number of weeks here. When I joined the team in Elmwood Park 12 years ago, I did not have this luxury. There was no transition. I got dropped in cold. And I think that Parsippany will be better off for the experience that she and I have had together.
Correct.
And I will be taking you up on the fact that you'll be a phone call and a town away. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Township Clerk, Mr. Madden.
Yes, two things, Council President. One, Ellen, it's been truly a pleasure working with you. Just want to say that, and then I'll reserve the rest for later. Second, there were two ordinances that were introduced on October 30th, 2018. Ordinance number 2018-10, which was discussing the salary ranges for the Superior Officers Association, and ordinance 2018-11, also discussing the salary ranges for the patrolmen. There were some issues with regards to publication, so we were unable to adopt it tonight. However, it will be placed on the agenda for the December 4th meeting to be adopted. That's all I have, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Township offices, committees, reports, anything?
I just wanted to announce that there's a master plan public workshop that will be held Tuesday, November 27th at Parsippany Hills High School cafeteria. Again, it's 7 to 9, and it's a roundtable for discussion about specific topics regarding the master plan.
Thank you. Okay, bids taken, October 4th, yard waste transportation and disposal recycling. October 5th, Craftsman Farms Administration Building rehabilitation. October 30th, WWTP generator improvements. To be taken, November 8th, transportation and disposal of sewer sludge cake. November 20th, invitation for bids from New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, licensed electric power suppliers for electric generation services. Quotations, proposals, qualifications, none.
Council President,
Go
before we start the public hearing, if we want to give a minute to anybody who would like to leave at this point, if anyone wants to leave, you go ahead and do so. I'm looking at the Board of Ed specifically. Okay. All right, so we're fine. So we continue. Okay.
All right. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is open to the public.
If you do come up, please state your name, sign in. You'll be given 5 minutes.
Hi, Trey Parikh, 791 Park Road. I've been here a few times before about the Heinrich Street property. And we have a number of neighbors today in the council meeting, specifically about the presentation we saw during the last meeting. Just procedurally, I'm trying to understand if that project will require a council vote, or because I saw them presenting in front of council, so it's a little confusing because the previous, our impression was that that project will go straight into one of the boards, but it came to council for a presentation. So I guess that's the question I want to start with.
Through you, Council President.
Sure.
It's my understanding that they are considering making application before the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
So the Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board, okay, separate and apart from the council. The only role that the council plays is appointing the members of the Board of Adjustment. So if I could make a loose comparison, it would be quasi-judicial board. It's almost like a court where you're asking for relief of the law to go against the zoning ordinances and the board will decide to make an exception on any of the relief that they're seeking from those ordinances. In that case, if they do make application before the Board of Adjustment, there'll be a 200-foot area around the property where they will have to notify any adjoining property owners of said hearing, so that any concerns or questions that you have about the project, that you're properly notified to be able to attend that meeting and ask those questions or express those concerns.
And I just want to verify, the presentation wasn't about so much the project. They were seeking funding, and one of the requirements that the county provides is that they just have a conversation in front of the council. So there was no action required by the council, but they needed to have a conversation.
Doesn't the
with
council provide the funding?
No, this was the county part.
Oh, the county part?
Yes.
Because after that presentation and hearing some of the residents, I have some concerns about the density of that project, and I would like further discussion on the density.
And that will be done at the Board of Adjustment.
No,
and I also did make the
I
commitment.
want council input on that.
Yes, and Council, Mr. DePiero, I wanted to say that you asked me to speak with them, and I did. I've had a conversation, and I will be, before I leave, I will be meeting with them.
Meeting with who, the residents?
No, we talked about meeting with the Habitat.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the density.
I would like the council, some of the council members that are also concerned, myself included,
Right.
to be in on that discussion.
Okay.
Is there any way for all the residents to be a part of that discussion, or no? Because that's something we've been asking for since the beginning of the year. Since we started seeing all the activities on the property, reached out a number of times, and I think I wrote that in the email to all of you, but haven't been able to get a meeting scheduled with council members or the mayor's office. So I think that's concerning. It took us very long time to just get the facts out, what was being built. And we had to, contact Newbridge Services to get some of these information. So we would like to be part of that conversation.
Sir, just real quick, I had the opportunity to speak to yourself and
Yes.
a bunch of your other residents over there. So I did listen to your concerns. I don't know if you did see.
I definitely appreciate your.
And at our
I
last
also noticed on the
meeting, I know you guys weren't here and
Yep.
they were here.
Yeah.
I mean, I made it perfectly clear where I stand on that.
Yes.
So, like I said, I don't know how much of an input, or Mr. DePiero had said, and Ms. Sampan, how much of an input we would have, Mr. Kazmark. But I can tell you, I stated last meeting exactly what my opinion. I think it is too dense. I don't like it at all. Be flat out. I'll come right out and say it. I don't agree with it at all. So.
And I guess this is not an official vote, but how does all the other council members feel? Because I heard the presentation in 28 parking spots and a little one-way, one-lane street. All the houses around it, they're all single-family residential properties. I've said this in the past. My conversation with Liz DeCourcy from Habitat, I think she made a comparison about comparing the house value for a condominium complex and appraisal for a single family. I think we all know that that's not a fair comparison, and we don't do that comparison. I think our concern is putting a condo complex in all single-family neighborhood. We're significantly reducing the marketability of our properties. It's not about direct comparison of the value of the properties, but it's a marketability. So anything other than a single-family house would not be an ideal for that lot.
The council's original intent on that property was a group home, which would be 6 classified people, either physically or mentally disabled, to be in a group home. That's what we funded and that's what we approved. When that fell through, the council was no longer involved, and this plan, which is an attempt, all due respect to the administration, we spent a lot of money to purchase the property and to move forward with something. But I don't think this is it. I would personally prefer to turn down Habitat for Humanity on this project and to leave the property vacant at this point in time until some group home is willing to talk to us about using that property for a group home.
Right, and I think in my email, we also made it clear with all the residents that I think we're okay with group home. We're all accepted. In fact, I built a house in 2016, 2017, with knowing that there was a group home, proposal for a group home. So it was fully accepted. And we welcome a group home or affordable housing, a single-family affordable house. So I don't think it's an issue about not having an affordable house in that property or a group home. It's about the density. I think you all made that very clear, that it's definitely about the density. So is there a way for us to get some input from Mayor's office for this meeting, the proposed meeting with the Habitat?
Well, the
and the council?
administration has heard some of the council members. I think they need to go back and digest what the next step would be.
Can I ask
Council
a
President?
question?
Sure.
Yeah. What exactly is the council's role here? Can anyone,
So,
I mean, do we have any input to that?
I'm currently looking at that. There was a prior agreement between Township and Newbridge that did contemplate a different project, so I'm currently taking a look at that agreement, and it may require council action in order for Habitat to move forward.
But my question is, if the zoning, it has to go before the zoning.
Well,
board. Do they have
there
the-
are two parts, right? There's
Right.
there's a council part, and then there's a land use part that'll be before the zoning board.
Okay, so if the zoning board should approve it, then what's the council?
No, the
Well-
chicken and the egg thing here.
Correct.
The Newbridge agreement was first.
That's
Right.
correct.
So when our township attorney looks at the Newbridge agreement, to change that agreement might require council approval, is
That's
what he
cor-
is saying.
Right,
correct.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
I'm talking about the zoning.
What if it doesn't get our approval?
It doesn't get- it doesn't go to
It
zoning.
goes
Approval,
to
there's
zoning.
no,
It would
there's
have
no
to
need
come
to
here
make a
first.
zoning
Right, it wouldn't go to
application.
zoning.
Correct.
Okay, so they don't get the opportunity to, okay,
That
Okay.
depends on the agreement, of course.
That's right.
Right after Mr. Long.
okay.
And
All
if-
right, thank you, sir.
All right, and if there's any way we can do this meeting, Mr. Kazmark, since you've started your new hire for the town, if this is something you can set up for us, it would be great.
got
And
it.
we can invite all the residents.
You got it.
All right, thank you.
Just as a point, not to disparage the efforts of the administration on trying to utilize investment we had already put into the property, okay? They were trying to utilize the investment we had already put into it. It's not what some of us want, even though we're gonna lose some of our investment.
Right.
If we go back to the Newbridge issue, it still has to be compatible with the neighborhood, and I agree with the residents.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Venezia, 102 Brook Lawn
Spinez,
Drive.
if you could speak a little bit closer to the mic.
Pat Venezia, 102 Brook Lawn Drive. Under the Affordable Housing Law, 15% of the rental units being constructed at the district of 1515 are required to be affordable. The purpose of the payment in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as pilot, agreement that the council is considering tonight is to compensate the developer for lost income due to the construction costs and the reduced rents associated with these affordable housing units. After reading the pilot agreement thoroughly and understanding it as best as we can, we believe that this pilot actually overcompensates the developer at the expense of the taxpayers of Parsippany. Our concerns are, number one, Exhibit E lists the annual payments by the developer to Parsippany for all 30 years of the agreement. In our opinion, the numbers for the last 5 years are artificially inflated to the point of being deceptive. To boost the average 30-year payout and the grand total of all the payouts so that they seem more attractive to the township, The developer heavily backloads projections for the last 5 years by assuming totally unrealistic 50% increases in gross revenues, that is 50% rent increases in year 26 and then again in year 29. Number 2, the amount of the tax break provided by the pilot seems excessive. If the market rate units, which comprise 85% of the project, were taxed in the conventional way, and the 15% affordable units were not taxed at all, Parsippany would receive over $3 million in taxes in year 1. In contrast, Parsippany will only receive an estimated $1.1 million under the pilot. A tax abatement of $2 million a year for 30 years in compensation for 68 affordable units seems overly generous. The township needs to negotiate a better deal in this area. 3, Parsippany assumes excessive risk under the pilot, especially in the area of education costs. The pilot is based on a verbal projection of 20 to 25 students. Based on real-life experience from the 7,000 apartments that already exist in Parsippany, the district of 1515 is likely to produce 80 to 100 students. Given that the vast majority of District 1515 renters are expected to be millennials of childbearing age, and that 177 units in the development have either 2 or 3 bedrooms, an estimate of 80 to 100 students may actually be on the low side. If the developer's estimate is wrong and 80 to 100 is right, Parsippany will actually lose more money than it takes in under the pilot. Taxpayers need protection against the possibility of this scenario occurring. At a previous meeting, the council was receptive to including a clause that would shift the burden of paying for excessive students onto the developer. This clause needs to be included in the agreement before you sign it. 4, the Housing Trust Fund contribution of $75,000 per affordable unit that Parsippany will receive in place of 34 units is inadequate. The going rate for a landlord agreement to convert an existing market apartment to an affordable one is also about $75,000. This figure was obtained by the business administrator from an expert who was involved in a similar transaction in Edison.
1 minute.
Parsippany has nothing to gain by accepting $75,000 per unit and having to pay that same amount in a conversion agreement with a landlord. On the other hand, the $75,000 per unit contribution generates huge gains for the developer. The difference in rents between a 2-bedroom market rate apartment and a 2-bedroom affordable unit is $1,800 a month. See Exhibit 10. The
30
present
seconds.
value of $1,800 a month for 30 years, assuming a 4% interest rate, is $375,000. So the developer is paying Parsippany $75,000 for a transaction that is worth $375,000 to him. We have a problem with that, and so should you. Ask for at least $180,000 per unit. If that is not acceptable, have the developer physically construct the entire allotment of 68 affordable units. Bob will continue.
Did you have that timed perfectly right there?
Sorry to do the tag team on you again, but it's necessary. Bob Venezia, 102 Brooklawn Drive. Number 5, hidden in the text of the pilot is a clause that allows any or all of the units in the district of 1515 to be sold as privately owned condos. First of all, this clause allows a developer to circumvent the affordable housing law. If the district at 1515 units were sold as individually owned condos at the start, the affordable housing quota would have been 20% instead of the 10% for rental units. More importantly, this arrangement deprives Parsippany of revenue that it's entitled to. The pilot agreement specifies that the purchasing condo owner continues to be taxed at the lower pilot rate rather than being taxed at the normal assessed rate. What's the rationale for applying pilot taxation to condo owners in this development, but not to any other single residential unit owners in town? Why should the district at 1515 condo owners pay less than half the taxes that the other residential owners pay? The pilot agreement should be changed so that any unit in the development that goes private should be taxed at the full market rate, just like everybody else. Number 6, when the details of the pilot were presented to the public, it sounded like Parsippany was going to get 10% of the gross revenues from the project in taxes. According to the written agreement, the $450,000 annual payment for the redevelopment area bond is paid off first from the 10% of gross before Parsippany receives a dime. The net result is that the township receives considerably less than 10% of the gross revenues, and in effect is paying for the bond. And we can use the $1 million, that minimum annual payment, to illustrate the problem. After the bond payment is taken out of the $1 million minimum, Parsippany is left with $550,000 in tax revenue. The amount is not much more than the pre-District 1515 amount of $420,000 that Parsippany collects today. We realize that the town and the developer have invested a lot of time and a lot of money in this project and now want to complete the pilot agreement. Our goal is not to stop the project from being built, but just to make sure that Parsippany gets its fair share of the tax revenues under this pilot. As representatives of the taxpayers of Parsippany, the council cannot approve this pilot in its current form. At a minimum, the following 3 conditions need to be added or modified. None of them should be deal breakers. Number 1, the developer must agree to paying an education cost tax surcharge for each student exceeding the projected maximum number of 25. The cost per student listed in the New Jersey Department of Education, by the New Jersey Department of Education for the most recent school year, which is currently listed at $22,000, should be used in the calculation. Number 2, the Housing Trust Fund contribution amount of $75,000 per unit should be increased to at least $180,000. If the developer does not agree to a number in this neighborhood, take the contributions completely off the table and have the developer physically build all 68 affordable units. And lastly, insist upon that upon sale of a rental unit into a privately owned unit, the owner should be assessed taxes on the same basis as every other residential unit in the township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. William LaVista, 770 Park Road. I just want to express gratitude for the council for reconsidering the project at 9 John Street. I mean, we've lost so much open space in that area. We've had 3 or 4 major housing developments. We've had 2 schools included. Right now, Canterbury Estates is my primary annoyance. We have blasting, rock crushing, basically quarry operations with caravans of dump trucks going up and down Park Road. How can you have blasting in the middle of a residential area? I don't understand how it got approved way back when, but it's still continuing. I think it's been going on for about 18 years. We've lost property, hundreds of thousands of trees over by the water tower. They planted ball fields there. We've we've lost so much open space. It's incredible. And I really want to express the gratitude to the council for consideration of the density of the project. So thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Thank you. Okay, see no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Oh, hold on a second.
No, no.
Okay, Dave Hutchinson, 811 Park Road. Also hear about the Henry Street project. I'm glad that you're considering taking a look at that. We have kids in the school too. Mount Tabor has become one of the biggest schools in the district. Any possibility of adding even kids to that school with a project of this size, I think, would be concerning too. So I would hope that you continue to consider whether a project of that density is the right fit for that property. We bought 3 years ago, and we were also on the understanding that was going to be a group home, which we also were pleased to see and happy about. Seemed to fit if it's a single family property. So again, please consider that as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Allison Cogan, and I am speaking just as a member of the public and a member of this town. And in my personal experience, I have found Bob Venezia really does his homework and really understands what he's talking about. So I would highly like you to highly consider the information he has given you. That is very relevant and something that you definitely need to consider. Thank you.
Oh, can you just state your address too for us?
Allison Cogan, 4 Faber Road in Parsippany.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, you already.
I just want to speak for the 1515
No,
project.
yeah, we can't.
Okay.
You've
Okay.
used up your time. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, see no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public.
My name is Gary Greco, 790 Park Road. I've gotten up here before and talked to you about that 9 Henry Street proposal. I just want to say that we are a diverse neighborhood. We don't just have Christmas lights and Hanukkah lights, we also have Diwali lights in Parsippany. And we are a diverse, strong neighborhood. We are all on beautiful properties, beautiful houses, not expensive ones, but good enough. And to drop this egregious condominium project right in the midst of us is a gross violation of any kind of zoning law that any community should hold as a standard. I want to thank you for all the help you will be giving us, because it looks like an uphill battle at this point. I don't know where the momentum comes from, but it seems to be there. And we're going to need all of you to understand that we're a large rainbow community in the middle of Parsippany who needs each and every one of your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else before I? All right, at this time, I entertain a motion to close the public.
Hold on.
Can't let you do that.
Bob Bars, 807 Park Road. This is the first meeting I've been at that the mayor has been at, so I have a question to the mayor. Do you know Matt Clarkin?
Yes.
Sir, is that your only question, or?
Is that it?
Well, we normally, our procedure is you ask all your questions and we'll answer them at the end, so we don't take up your time.
Well, my statement is, I called your office numerous times all spring asking about the Henry Street property. Never got a straight answer. Always was told something is happening, but no, nothing has been signed yet. We didn't even know who. I said to a lady, I said, so that they're selling it to a developer. He's going to put houses in there. Well, that's all I can say. That's what I was told. I don't, all right, take a few steps forward on that. I contacted Matt, and this is an email from him on June 29th. Hi, Bob. We are currently awaiting an update on the talks between Newbridge and Habitat, which we anticipate receiving on Monday. We will be able to call you with more update information on that date. I hope you will enjoy your weekend. That was the first and only time we were ever told that it was being sold to Habitat for Humanity. I'm still waiting for that phone call. Okay, from June 29th. Mrs. Sandman, I watched the video of the last council meeting. You kind of made a joke that I suggested it be a bird sanctuary. I didn't state that in an email as a joke. I threw that out there as an alternative.
I don't think I was making, well, you finished
All
your
right.
statements. Yeah.
It's an alternative if the town wants to get out of this somehow. I also asked the direct question, is the deed was changed behind closed doors. What can we do now to rechange the deed behind closed doors? And I'll leave that as a question.
I don't understand the reference that the deed was changed behind closed doors. The deed has always provided that the property is restricted for affordable housing use. That occurred when Newbridge bought the property.
Right. Was not.
Then it was changed. When Newbridge bought the property, it was changed.
Newbridge bought the property with the assistance of the township.
But what I'm saying is nobody in the neighborhood was notified that that deed was going to be changed to affordable housing.
The acquisition was funded pursuant to the township's affordable housing spending plan. That was noticed to the public.
That was noticed to the public.
Absolutely, that occurred years ago.
Well, I understand it's years ago. We're just finding that out now, but I am understanding that. But my question is, when you say it was notified to the public, I wasn't notified.
It was action of the council. It was approved by resolution.
And this is years ago.
Now, Mr. Lott, you're talking about the Newbridge agreement.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. The Newbridge agreement was an agreement that the council made and funded with Newbridge. The council has not been involved in any agreement between Newbridge and Habitat for Humanity. We have not been a part of any agreement.
That's correct.
Okay. So, and neither have the residents been involved in anything that switched from Newbridge to Habitat for Humanity. And that's all he's saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, what can the
time.
town of Parsippany, you people, us as residents, what can we do to change this deed so it's not for affordable housing only?
Well, if you listen to the discussion before, our township attorney is going to look at the council's agreement with Newbridge and see if there was validity in them selling our contract with them to Habitat for Humanity. The township attorney's the ball is in his park right now to tell us what our next step will be.
That's
Okay,
correct.
I'm sorry, I did come in late. If I missed that, I apologize for that. The one last thing I would like to say to you is, 2 months ago, you stated that all the townhouses, the group homes that you know, affected the community positively.
True.
This will not affect our neighborhood positively.
All right, now you're talking about the Habitat project.
Habitat, what they're trying to do. Okay.
I agree.
You take houses that are being put up for sale that need work. Okay, you go in and you fix them up. They help the community. This destroying a wooded property that's surrounded by 10 houses is not going to affect positively our neighborhood. Obviously, you all know that at this point in time. We've stated it enough. So, thank you.
I just want to go on record as saying when this did take place, it took place a really a while ago, because it was even 4.5, 5, 6 years ago. I don't know if you recall, Mike, when that Habitat agreement was done, possibly, but it was not done. It was not done behind closed doors.
But,
and
I assumed another
Yeah.
group home would go there. I did not know it was going to be.
Yeah, but that's
so
not what we're
this
referring to.
massive.
Yeah, no, we're not. I'm not referring to what could go there, not go there. What I'm saying is, you have to stand and say, or I do, I wouldn't be part of something that, this council would not be part of something that wasn't public. So maybe when I was saying about the bird sanctuary, I was saying in deference to how you wrote that, you did it behind closed doors, we can undo it behind closed doors. It was a moral, it hit my moral bone, and I
Yeah,
wanted
that has
to
a
say
negative
in-
connotation,
yes.
which
Yes.
was out of order.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is,
All right.
yeah,
I mean,
that was not done
It's
behind
not
closed doors.
1922, okay, where everywhere you look, there's open space. Okay, people with houses that back up to woods, their house is worth more than the person who doesn't have a woods against their house. That's just the way it is in 2018.
And everything you're saying, we're not saying we don't understand or we comprehend, but it needs to go on record that this community, these elected officials that are here now, were there in the past, did not do it behind closed doors. I just wanted to say that, because I felt that it was important to
I've
say
lived there
that.
29 years and I didn't know what was happening. And that
But
aggravates me.
maybe you missed the notice. I mean, it had to be public notice back.
Public notice in the newspaper, those 6 pages that have a gazillion lines of stuff that's legalized jumbo that nobody on the face of the earth reads.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Got it.
Hi, Isabella Alfano, 8 New England Drive. I just wanted to say that on Lincoln Avenue, my daughter goes to Lake Hiawatha School, and the beginning of the year, we had an open school night, and I realized that there was 26 students to one teacher, and I had mentioned to the teacher that it just seemed a great deal of students for one teacher to handle. And just recently, she received an aide, so I think that's wonderful. But there's construction going on Lincoln Avenue, and I don't know if you've ever tried to go and come in during rush hour in that street, but it's a nightmare. There's no way that two-way traffic can be managed. And I don't know what's being built there, but if there's additional housing and more students coming into that school, I just feel that there's needs to be a grades added to each class, because the resources are there. I think that has to be really thought about once we start approving for these properties to be brought off and more families being added into the community. Another place that I find really congested is, I live on New England Drive. I drive up to North to Knoll Road. Just to make a left or a right there in the morning is a nightmare. I don't know how many more people have been added into this community, but it just seems like there's a lot of traffic everywhere. Trying to get to and from school, trying to get to and from Route 46, trying to go through that. Even through the side streets, there's congestion. I just don't know where all these people are coming from.
Mr. Council President, may I comment on that?
Sure.
I'm going to need you. Yeah. No. Listen, I'm going to need you. We have we're going to kick off the master plan on the 27th, and traffic is certainly one of my huge concerns. And I'm going to need the community there to tell us what it is that you want to see and where it is you want to go. So please. Believe me,
Or we can't-
I understand.
Can't have talk from out there, so. No, I was gonna say, she can't talk from back there.
I know.
Without the mic, so.
Yeah, no,
At the high school.
Parsippany Hills, yeah.
Hills High School. It's public noticed, it's on the website, it's on Facebook. We even have it posted outside Town Hall. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Second. I second that.
Nice.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. DePiero. Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay, Mr. DePiero?
Ordinance 2018:27, an ordinance establishing salary ranges for the police chief of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills held on November 20th, 2018, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 18th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Ordinance 2018:28, an ordinance of the Township of the Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 290 Parks, Recreation Areas, Public Lands, Article 1, Motor Vehicles Fees, Section 290-4, Knoll Country Club Utility Fees, and Chapter A, 445 Fees, compilation, Section A, 445-37, Knoll Country Club Utility of the Code of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills in the County of Morris, New Jersey. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on the first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills on November 20th, 2018, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 18th, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. Peterson?
Ordinance 2018-29, ordinance of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills in the County of Morris authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with the District of 1515 Urban Renewal LLC and granting a tax exemption with respect to that certain property identified as Block 200, Lot 1.2. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills held on November 20th, 2018, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 18th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. before I motion this, just to clarify, this is the pilot agreement.
That's correct.
Okay. As I'm reading this aloud, it says we're going to read this again, and the public again will have the opportunity to be heard.
That's correct. There'll be a public hearing.
Okay, so at this time, before I make this motion, can I ask two questions? The first is, can somebody, maybe Mr. Hanley, can you address Mr. Venezia's concerns point by point and explain why we cannot accommodate what he is asking as it pertains to the number of children and shifting the burden of extending beyond what's projected to the developer? And I mean, Mr. Venezia has clearly done his homework and his points seem valid to me. So I'd like to hear why we cannot take the time to address them.
Mike Hanley, NW Financial Group. The context of this whole transaction is, after many, many months of negotiating with the redeveloper, the town got millions of dollars of concessions from the redeveloper. And this is the very best deal we believe the town can negotiate across the many things that we got, and there are not additional financial concessions to be made here. This is the kind of worst the deal the redeveloper can do for themselves and still have it be financeable. Now, the school children issue, I don't agree with the idea that there can be 80 or 100 school children coming out of this project. To compare this project and very small studio and one-bedroom units to older apartments that have large two-bedroom units, it's a bad comparison. Rutgers has studied thousands of units around the state and published their findings, and you get a very different number of children from different types of units.
So let me stop you right there. If that's the case,
Yes.
then why not agree to the burden being shifted to the developer?
It's a financeability issue. I mean,
But if it's not going to happen, then it shouldn't be an issue.
But developers, the banks that finance developers don't take kind of open-ended risks that can come to any possible result. It's not what they do as a practice. I agree. I mean, I don't think, and I think even probably the developer would agree that it's not a unmanageable risk, because you're very there's no reason to believe that this project would behave differently from all the other projects in the state that are similar. But you have to get financing. Without financing, you can't build, and that's not a risk that banks take.
But you can understand the frustration in the room that is the position in which we find ourselves.
I mean, there are a lot. You would like to always do deals with no risk to you and lots of risk on the other side, but those aren't deals that happen. As an example, you probably don't have another project in the town that's waiving their Kelly Act rights and going to take care of their own snow and snow removal and solid waste and things like that, right? That you don't have a town that's doing infrastructure improvements and making them, a portion of them done with prevailing wage. You don't have other projects that are making a $3 million payment to your COA fund. So, and you can isolate any point and say we must have this one point, but it kind of undermines the very long and hard negotiation that this administration did to get the best deal that was possible for the town in the context of having a building that's underutilized, a continually decreasing rateable, a serious COA obligation that has to be managed and dealt with. And complicated transactions have things that you like about them and things that you don't like about them, and you're not going to get the deal that you want to be perfect.
Mr. Hanley, you mentioned, excuse me, Mr. Hanley, you mentioned the Kelly Act. I had referenced Mr. Lott this afternoon in regard to the designated roads, and Mr. Lott replied that the roads that you are referring to with the garbage removal and the snow removal and so forth and so on are within the development. I'm asking what of the roads in the rear and the side of the property. I have a map that says that they are going to be designated to the township of Parsippany.
Right.
Is the entity still going to take care of those roads, and Parsippany will not be held accountable to clean the roads during the snow or whatever?
Yes, that's the agreement.
That's the agreement, okay. And also, didn't the entity recently come to an agreement with Mr. Lott's help in regard to if any of the units become condominium units, then they will be, this agreement shall revert to the legality applicable to real estate taxes. If the apartments are changed to condos,
Yes, that's correct.
then we will have that option.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Lott, thank you, Mr. Hanley, I appreciate it. And
Can I,
oh, sorry, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
just let me, does that extend to the retail portion?
It
If any
does.
of the
Yes.
retail
Yes.
portion is sold as well?
Mr. DePiero and I, over the weekend, talked about that, and I was able to reach the Developers Council yesterday.
I'll be explaining that in my statement when I get a chance to talk.
Can you just,
So it'll cover both the residential dwelling units as well as the retail space.
so what does that mean? This means the entire retail complex, individual retail?
Right, so with respect to the residential, it'll be the individual apartment units. And then with respect to the commercial retail space, it'll be the individual retail units.
So in effect, that nullifies the pilot on the retail?
Correct.
Yeah.
In the event that they're sold individually as condos.
Individually?
Correct. Right. So the intent here, just so we're clear, is to make sure that we don't have owner-occupied dwelling spaces or retail spaces. But the project, by its nature, is a condominium project. There will be a commercial landlord and there will be a residential landlord.
But if I understood the email that you sent us, if this does occur, the bonds from the RAB will be repaid, the agreement will be terminated, land and improvements subject to this agreement shall revert to legally applicable real estate taxes.
just wanted to be
So I
clear
think
on that,
that's,
yeah.
I think that's in our benefit if this
Yeah,
should ever
that
come
is-
to pass.
yeah. But 177 units that was pointed out, 150 of those are two-bedroom at market rate. 19 are affordable housing two-bedroom. There's 8 three-bedroom. So that's like 177 units that have the potential for school-age children.
But you have to, I'm separating the market units from the affordable units, because the affordable units have to be placed somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's on this site or on another site.
Right. So what you're saying about the affordable housing units is they are not included in this 2025 because that's a function of the municipality with their co-agreement?
That's right.
Okay, and that's what I understood. I just wanted to be
Yes.
clear on that.
Correct.
So they're exempt really from sort of this 2025?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And Mr. Lott, could you lay out what are the legal and developmental consequences if this should not pass?
Well, some of that touches on the township's current litigation involving affordable housing, so I would prefer not to get into any details with respect to where we currently stand with our affordable housing litigation. But a failure of the project would have adverse consequences for us in our currently pending Mount Laurel litigation, because the project was identified by prior administration as one of the cornerstones of our affordable housing plan.
So, so in simple language, we're possibly talking about a lawsuit?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you will affect your affordable housing number.
Potentially.
And that lawsuit potentially would have the COA obligation on the side of the builder in that lawsuit.
That's correct.
Okay. Everybody satisfied so far? Motion to approve the above resolution.
Mr. Hanley, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley.
We have a motion by Ms. Peterson. We need a second.
Second, Grignani.
Okay. So we have a motion by Ms. Peterson, seconded Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Okay, my turn. A brief statement I'd like to read first. We have spent a lot of time on this project. I think that this project could be good for Parsippany, but I was not totally comfortable with the pilot. Even though there is no intent to convert the apartments or commercial units into condos at this time, the pilot could hinder our ability to collect taxes in that eventuality. To protect the township, I requested that wording be added to the agreement that if any portion of the entity, residential or commercial, is sold, then the pilot is broken and these units would be assessed and taxed at fair market value. Our township attorney has assured me that Article 9, Paragraph 1G covers my concern, and therefore I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. DePiero. Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
You know, I believe that this is a great concept, forward-looking development with several benefits. However, I don't feel that enough time was devoted to understanding the terms and the projected cost of this project. And given the scope of the project, I think it deserves a more thorough discussion and review to make an informed decision. I don't feel that I have all the information I need to make a decision on that, a comfortable decision on that. And I'd recommend in the future that the council, you know, try to keep the council a little apprised of any major negotiations like this, because this was a very complex agreement. I don't think it's easily understood. So, you know, I vote no.
Ms. Peterson?
I would second what Councilmember McCarthy has stated and say that we inherited this. This is taking on the racehorse on the third turn. So I have sought counsel and information from as many people as I thought humanly possible and reasonable, and this is an incredibly challenging decision because I think it will set a lot of precedent in motion. But that being said, I think that the benefit at this point outweighs the risk that will be triggered, I think, immediately should this project fail. So while I agree with Mrs. McCarthy on her hesitations, and I think that they are sound and accurate, I think that in order to move us beyond this so that we can begin to focus on best practices in the future, I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Okay, before I vote, you know, when this project was first discussed, there was no mention of a pilot. You know, and there was something said earlier tonight where it referenced the risk, that the developer didn't want to take the risk. And I heard some mumblings in the audience, and I said the same thing to myself at the same time. So you want us to take the risk. I don't think the town should take the risk. I think this project could be something that could be good, down the road for the town. I just don't like the pilot program the way it stands right now. I think Mr. Venezia brings up some good points. I don't think the town is going to get the full benefit out of this that we should, and where we could get the most rateable that we could, and I just think that we're giving up too much with the way the agreement is, so I'm going to vote no.
Okay, so just going to go over the votes very quick for clarification of the record. We had a motion by Ms. Peterson, a second by Ms. Grignani. Mr. DePiero voted yes, Ms. Grignani voted yes, Ms. McCarthy voted no, Ms. Peterson voted yes, and Mr. Carriffy voted no. The motion passes 3 yes votes to 2 no votes.
However, the second reading will require 4 votes. Or the motion is...
No, that's not true.
No?
No. 3 votes.
3 votes to
no.
pass that too?
Yes.
On an ordinance?
Yeah, only the bond ordinances would require 4.
Oh.
Okay, Mrs. Grignani?
Sorry about that. Ordinance 2018:30. An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, Morris County, amending the redevelopment plan for property identified as Block 20, Lot 1.2, and located at 1515 Route 10 in the township, and referring said amendment to the Planning Board for review and comment in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A:12A-1 ETSEQ. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills held on November 20th, 2018, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December the 18th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
This is for the size of the units? What does this have to do with?
Yes, that's correct.
This is
This
the-
makes really 2 technical corrections to the existing redevelopment plan. One is that, based on the current architectural program, it actually reduces the unit size. And it also limits the total number of residential units to be built to 441. The prior plan allowed, I think, up to 450.
Oh, so it's 441 now?
It's
is the number.
441 now, right. It sets
Yes.
the ceiling, right. We'll
Okay.
have Mr. Snikes here at second reading to explain both amendments.
Okay, thank you, yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2018:25. This is the second reading. Ordinance of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills in the County of Morris, New Jersey, providing for retirement payouts and authorizing a special emergency appropriation of $752,132.19 therefore. The notice for the ordinance above was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, on November 7, 2018. This ordinance was introduced at the October 30th, 2018 agenda meeting. Motion to accept that ordinance 2018:25 be heard in its second and final reading by title only. By
Second.
myself.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2018:25.
Second,
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes. The floor is open for comment on this ordinance only.
Okay, see no one else come forward?
Motion to
Motion
close the public hearing for ordinance 2018:25.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and the hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading, and that a notice of final passage for said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2018:26, an ordinance of the Township Council of Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, Morris County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 4, Administration of Government of the Code of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills by reversing the table of organization of the Police Department with respect to the number of authorized lieutenant and sergeant positions. The notice for the ordinance above was published in the Daily Record and the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills on November 7, 2018. This ordinance was introduced at the October 30th, 2018 agenda meeting. Motion to accept that ordinance, 2018:26 be heard in its second and final reading by title only.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Public hearing 2018-26, motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2018:26.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. DePiero. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes. Floor is open for the public on this ordinance only.
See no one come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Well, Janice made the motion. We need a second.
Oh, I made the
Second.
motion. Someone
Motion
else
made
to
by
second
Ms.
it.
Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Next page, wait a minute. Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on the second reading and a hearing held thereon, therefore there be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading and that the notice of the final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution?
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Non-consent agenda resolutions. Resolution 2018-184. Resolution of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills in the County of Morris making application to the Morris County Improvement Authority for the issuance of non-recourse bonds under the redevelopment area bond financing law in connection with the redevelopment of that certain property within the township identified as Block 200, Lot 1.2. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2018-185, resolution authorizing the issuance of $752,132.19 special emergency notes for retirement payouts in and by the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills in the County of Morris, New Jersey. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consent agenda. Be it resolved, all items listed with an asterisk are routine and non-controversial by the Township Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night,
We're
everyone.
adjourned.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.